Hey everybody, all you groovy guys and groovy gals out there. Thanks for stooping. Thanks for stopping by and checking this channel out. And the purpose of this channel is to make an attempt anyway to start to counter the MAGA-Nazi disinformation and lying broadcasting systems from owning all of the airspace and the talking space. As you may have noticed on the way into this space, I also write books and have a little bit about them later when I draw comparisons. I also do have a podcast called Gary Talks too that I put out every 10 days. At the end of that podcast, there is a short political rant wherein I pick a screwed up person or decision or act that simply must be commented on if I ever want to get any sleep again anyway. So this is going to be a much more progressive commentary than the freaks on the radical anti-American right are capable of. You see, I know it may sound corny, but I believe in science. I believe in truth. I believe in facts. I believe in our Constitution. I believe in the American dream. And apparently a lot of others do as well. That much is more than obvious from the number of immigrants that risk their life, the lives of their families to seek our shores, to have what we were given long ago and fight for. The right to life, liberty, and the simple pursuit of happiness. An idea and an ideal that the right apparently gave up on long ago. So I'll talk more about me later as I kind of go through this, and I'll only lay my background one time, so I won't bore you with it every time. So I'm going to present my point of view with a lot less vitriol and name calling. I didn't say none. They deserve it. If I call someone a name or give them a tag, they absolutely earned it. I do not do that lightly, giving people names or tags, but sometimes it is wildly necessary to describe a person on the right. Usual titles just do not work anymore. Let's take an example. Congressman, congresswoman. Sounds pretty benign. That hardly describes the MAGA-Nazis that currently infect our government like a virus or a cancer, and they seek only to bring it down, to crash it. I mean, come on, that's a very ironic thing, don't you think, that you run for government office, and that's not an easy thing to do. But the only reason I want to do it is to destroy the government. Figure. Oh, wait a minute, but I heard someone in the back just say, hey, Gary, you said less vitriol and name calling, and you just called the people who want to overthrow the United States MAGA-Nazis. Isn't that a tad hypocritical? Short answer, no. Let's take a short step back in time to the glorious mid-1930s, shall we? A movement arose in Austria first and Germany to make us great again, or some such bullshit. Actually, all they ever wanted to do was exercise complete and total control over every single aspect of human existence. That was a very clearly enunciated goal from day one. They didn't make any bones about it. The MAGA-Nazis aren't either. How'd they do that, you ask? Well, you guys ask really good questions. First, they started by tearing down the media and inserting their version of the truth in the public forum for all to see. You know, sort of like Kellyanne's alternate facts. I love that. That just had me rolling on the floor, still does when I think about it. Second, they set about to destroy the fabric of all of our societal institutions, or all of their societal institutions at the time. Then they moved on to schools. The younger, the better for their indoctrination to work, to further infect other people with their disease. Then they banned books, any books that did not actively advance their cause and their worldview. It was called degenerate art back then. It was not only books, it was art, plays, music, everything. Dissent would not be tolerated. You would go to a camp or just disappear. Then, after that, you must stoke fear in the public about your opposition by calling them things like baby killers, say they want open borders, and then throw out that most tired and insulting of slogans, traditional values, and talking about a longing for the way it used to be back in the days. But that almost always meant when white folks or white men ruled everybody else with an iron fist. So I don't want to go back to those days. I mean, I'm a white man. So do any of those tactics sound eerily familiar to you at all? I mean, any of them? Taken separately, they're just minor irritants, but when clearly seen, as they are now, to be a well-orchestrated campaign to seize power, that threat becomes obvious and direct. I know, those were different times. I get that. Both Austria and Germany lay in ruins after the end of World War I, 1917. A loaf of bread, would cost, say, 10,000 marks on a Monday and 100,000 marks on Thursday. That's just the way it was. There was very, very little usable infrastructure left. Not much in the way of housing or other basic necessities that previously were just taken for granted. They were, after all, civilized society, at least on the surface. They were all very easy to convert to the National Socialist or Nazi viewpoint. After all, think about it. What could be worse than what was happening to them at that time? Well, we all know what happened. They soon found out, but first they had to cause the death of upwards of 20 million people before they were defeated and crushed. Disturbingly, this tendency for MAGA-Nazism is not just happening here in the US, but it's also gaining lots of ground across Western Europe. That, my friends, is another absolutely vital reason to reiterate the importance of maintaining a strong, vibrant democracy that works for the people being governed. I mean, come on. We must present a strong alternative to the hate-filled speech that comes with MAGA-Nazism, both here and abroad. There's no place in civil society for torchlight marches, lynchings, hatred and fear, deliberate lies and misinformation that is being mass-produced daily by those who seek to destroy our beloved country, both here and, yes, here and abroad. And that is the worst of it. Look at that. The politest thing I can say is that loudmouth from Georgia, or the child molester from Florida, the fake outrage of the idiot from Texas who likes to hide in the bushes like he's in the Blair Witch Project, or the Arizona man, I use that term loosely, whose own family, all of them, all of his siblings, mother, father, everybody, denounced him as an unstable and horrible person. Not just one horrible, two. But he was elected because he had an R next to his name on the ballot. Simple as that. The man is simply not qualified to leave home without serious medication and supervision. And that's a fact. Yet he sits in our Congress. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Arizona. Or the wholly unqualified tube sock wearing menace Putin buddy from Alabama, whose open hatred of the military and American generals palpable. All of these people clearly understand that they are doing the bidding of one V. Putin, the same guy who once again wants to stamp out freedom in Western Europe. These guys keep rising every 50, 80, 100 years to show everybody the way and kill everybody's freedom. And now we got another one. Every single day they help to undermine our nation in every way possible. Let's back up to the crazy. Look at that immigrant-hating immigrant senator from Texas, Alphonse Cruz. He praises the Russian military fawns over them, and actively, every damn day, criticizes ours. He has, of course, never served a single day, I might add. His idea of service, get this, is getting a cold beer delivered poolside in Cancun while his constituents and neighbors died. That is his definition of service. Got nothing to do with helping anyone else or trying to make the world, our country, a better place to live and raise children. Why do something silly like that when you can use all your time here on Earth to feather your own nest and screw people along the way? I mean, what could be more fun than that? That is the credo of the MAGA-Nazi. They have the rights. They deny you. They have opinions that must be made law. Must. They have hate that spews out of them on a daily basis and affects our body politic and our society as a whole. Everything, and I do mean everything, is a zero-sum situation. There must be a winner and must be a loser. There must be. A man a lot smarter than me, I know that doesn't, narrow the field much, but he lived back in the late 1700s. A man a lot smarter than me said a long time ago something that really shows how terribly sick this whole thought process and arrangement is. And I quote here, pay attention. The purpose of argument is progress, not victory. I'll say that again. The purpose of argument is progress, not victory. So in this opening episode, I'm here to show that it does not have to be that way. Civilized and honest discussion is possible. I know it is. So I will be pointing out the danger that people like I've already mentioned and the other nutcases hailing from Colorado, Florida, Texas, Arizona, North Dakota, Iowa, and other places in our country, of course. But I also want to point to positive stories that come up, the decent things that decent people do. And I'll also be encouraging, no, I am begging you to get out and vote like your life and your kids' future depends on it. Because this time, folks, in a very real sense, it does just that. Want your kids and their kids to have a brighter future? Of course you do. Most people do. MAGA-Nazis don't. They don't care about the cleanliness of the air and water, couldn't care less. About education opportunity? Well, why should they? They've got theirs. Quality and inclusion? No, that's socialism. Sorry, we can't have that. And here's the question. They only want to take this power and hold that power forever without any chance for your voice to be heard. But the irony, the question is why? Why do they want that power? Because after a very few years, after they have jailed every journalist and teacher, after they have imprisoned every freethinker, scientist, or an opposition figure, after they have gotten their sad, sick retribution, then what are they going to do? There won't be a country here anymore. We will have become a lawless state, ungovernable by anybody, a lot like Somalia and Afghanistan. Don't let me hear anybody say it can't happen here. It's already started. So what am I getting at here? Vote! Get it? It's my very strong feeling that voting is so much more than a simple right you may or may not choose to exercise. Voting is an obligation. It's a duty, like paying fair share taxes to fund our government and our way of life. You know, libraries don't fall out of the sky, even though the MAGA-Nazis think they do. Airports, roads, police, fire. None of that stuff just appears. I think MAGA-Nazis get that, but I'm not really sure, to be fair. Remember this, the government at every level, is composed of our fellow citizens, most of whom most of them, went into service to make a difference and not to stuff their pockets. Can you hear me in the back there, Moscow Mitch? Mitch? You out there, Mitch? Yeah, he's here a little while ago. But if you choose not to vote, and that is your right, I'm not saying it's not, know this: you assist those who want to tear down every institution that makes our society function. Every single one. By not voting, you help to make that possible. By not voting, your voice will not be heard. I was watching the morning news the other morning, and the Reverend Barber came on, a man I admire. He's the chairman of the, I believe it's the Poor People's Campaign. He's a very effective advocate for the people forced to live in poverty. But he said something that's really stuck with me, and I think it'll stick with you too. He said that the Hebrew word for voice and vote are the same. Wonder why. So in the podcast that I mentioned above, Gary Talks Too, I try to show how the present is so influenced by our past. It makes that old saying, what's old is new again, is definitely proven by this. I've written 2 volumes of what I hope to make a 4-volume series called Journey, the Story of an American Family. It's a heavily researched and accurate representation of life in America as seen through the eyes of a young black man, James Woodman. You don't see a lot of history written from the point of view of a young black person. So that makes it unique. Volume 1 began in 1814 as the British are threatening Washington, D.C. The second volume ending in 1865 at the end of the Civil War. What happens in between is a sometimes brutal, but always honest, hard, honest look at who we were and who we are. Big deal, someone in the back just called out. There's a lot of hist-fix out there. What makes yours so different? Well, let's start from the top. First, no bodice ripping, no pirates, no castles, no kings, no fair damsels in distress. Like I said, this is a very deeply researched and painfully honest look back at our reflection in the mirror. And it is very unique in that the observer, as I just said, the hero of our story, is a freeborn young black man. James wants nothing more than what any of you out there want. A life of peace and harmony, the freedom to raise a family and make a good home for them, and to help bring a future about that will allow them to flourish. I mean, come on, that's all simple stuff, really. But since he is a black man, all or most of these things are difficult or just impossible to attain and to keep. Though freeborn, he and his family and his entire community are under constant threat of the slave hunters and hateful racists who want to deny him the simple goals he wants nothing more than a chance to work hard for. He is a good man on a turbulent sea. And as you will see, the war becomes inevitable. So my point here is that this same illogical hatred, this moronic fear of the other, this need to keep an entire population down had its start many, many years ago. And many of those same mechanisms that made that world work, made that world possible, are still operating today in this world. All you have to do is open a newspaper. Yeah, if you don't know what a newspaper is, it's a big papery thing writing on it. You can also find a headline online somewhere. Not social media, please. Don't look for your news on social media. Jeez. It will be in the headlines. I can, with confidence, promise you. The recent shooting in Jacksonville, the massacre in Buffalo, the rewriting of history in Florida, and soon other places like good old Oklahoma, the denial of an entire culture are all out there in the open for all to see. They're not trying to hide anything. They're like, look at us. What are you going to do about it? Huh? What are you going to do about it? What is not out in the open is redlining to deny decent housing opportunities, the denial of college and university admissions for educational opportunities, the lower paying and more menial work that is the best many of them can hope for. They will have no inability to acquire and pass on what is known as generational wealth, so that someday the entire family may be lifted out of poverty. So economic growth opportunities also denied. And then the most crushing of all to me, the denial of a voice and a vote, the denial of representation both in culture and in politics. All of these are legacies of hate, which coincidentally is the name of the latest episode of my podcast. Fancy that. Actually, I just dropped a new one yesterday, so that would be the next to the last episode. Wait a minute. But Gary, another heckler, just said from the back of it, I don't know where those guys are, that we can see you, and you are one of the very whitest humans to have ever lived. Yeah, true. But I have two replies to that, not three really. First, you never met my youngest. She is so white she can be hard to see sometimes. My wife took the kids to Egypt when I was back in the States a few years back. And the boys there just went nuts when they saw her, and they kept asking my wife, do you give her a lot of milk? It's pretty funny. Secondly, I'd say, and this is very important, I'm not writing about color. I'm writing about the human condition. Sorry. The way we treat each other throughout history, about one man's and one family's quest for simple dignity. This is a universal theme. I mean, come on, how much more universal can you get? Saying I can't write about that, it's like saying a man can't write about a woman. An American can't write about an Englishman. A tall person, like me, can't write about a short person. I mean, come on, man, as Joe Biden likes to say. I love him for that. Thirdly, I've got to be honest, I find the question racist in nature because of the reasons I've listed. Human beings write about human beings. That's it. As long as your facts are straight and you have a good story to tell and you tell it well, that is all that matters. You know, there was a book on the New York Times bestseller list not too long ago. It was on there for a little while. And it was titled Traveler, if any of you remember that. And it was a story about that trader, that famous trader, Bobby Lee from Virginia. That was his horse's name, and it was sort of a view of the war and the goings on through the eyes of a horse. And I just want you to know, because I've checked, I really did. I can say without the slightest hesitation, it was not written by a horse. I called the publisher, she told me. Okay, I guess I'll end the rants on that note. But I'm going to introduce myself a little further, tell you a little bit more about me before I go. Won't do it again, so I'll only bore you with it once. And now you can go out and live your life, and I hope you will give what you heard here a little thought. That'd be nice. So, yeah, my name is Gary, obviously, because this is Gary Talks Gary Talks Truth. I have a Facebook page called Gary Loves to Write, because I do. Yeah, so kind of goes in that round. So my name is Gary, and I was a pilot for 30 years, but not in any kind of conventional way you might think of. I was what they used to romantically call a gypsy pilot. I wanted to fly all my life for two reasons. First, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to soar with the birds to swoop and dive and wheel at will, like they do? I mean, come on. Secondly, I wanted to see the world, all of it, everywhere. I'm a very proud Army brat. My dad was a career officer, a West Point grad, who served with Patton in the 4th Armored Division as they stormed through Europe, killing every Nazi who didn't immediately surrender. That's how my dad put it right before he died. He said they would roll up, and if they didn't immediately lay down their arms, they killed everybody. They were on a tight schedule. Patton was a driver. They never gave anyone a second chance to surrender. Our family, like every other family in my world, moved often and usually far. My dad wasn't really allowed out of the country while he was active, so we didn't move that far. A lot of my friends spent years in Japan and Germany. I was always very jealous about that. But he was in a very secret line of work at the time, so he was encouraged to not go. So anyway, I left home at 16 to see the world, and that's just what I did. I've lived and worked or visited most places on all 7 continents. I've flown more types of aircraft than anyone you have ever met, most likely. There were times when the money was tight, yeah, and other times when I was flush. But man, I got to fly a lot of really cool airplanes to really cool places with some really great people. And I wouldn't trade any of it, not 1 minute, for a United or American seniority number. You know, it seems like people forget sometimes. It's a cliche, I know, but it's true. You only get to play this game once. Just once, that's it. If you waste any of that time doing things the way others think you should, then I genuinely feel bad for you. Now at this stage, I'm just an old guy who has seen the world, played blues guitar in Budapest nightclubs, owned a couple of bistros there, catered a bunch of fun gatherings there as well. I've climbed the mountains and I've seen the bottom of the sea, skied the Alps and skimmed the clouds in a sailplane. Best of all, I have 3 beautiful and very talented kids and 2 grandkids. Also, it goes without saying, extremely beautiful and talented. I am, in short, a very, very lucky man. Okay, let's wrap it up for this week. I'll be dropping a new video every week on Wednesday, so please come back and hang out. Now get this, if you want your opinion to be read here, just drop me a line at the podcast at gvbrights.com. That's the podcast, one word, at gvbrights.com. Those are my initials, GVB. And I'll be happy to share your thoughts with everyone. But here's the deal. No cliches, no conspiracies, no sloganeering, no disrespect, no MAGA-NAZIS. Now, if you're a member of my target audience, you don't need to be told any of this. You know how to respect people and behavior, so I'm sure you do. Those rules are just for those who might be tempted to spew a few lies or some hate from here, because that ain't going to work. I know that the highly intelligent, very capable and modest, not to mention impossibly good-looking folks I know that you are, you'll be fine. You can also stop by my website at www.gvbrights.com and learn more about my books, the podcast, and here's something else, the mentoring that I do with kids in Malawi. Royalties from the books go to help those kids who only want a chance. That's all. They just want a chance and they're willing to work their butts off for it. They walk miles a day, both directions, just to get to a class with a dirt floor, no desk, and they're always smiling. Hard to take sometimes. So, listen to this. You get a free book on Kindle Unlimited, free on KU. And here's the deal. You will get a good read by doing a good deed. And if that ain't a win-win, I don't know what that means. So, I guess that's it. I hope I'll hear from you. I really do. Drop me a line. Come and join me. You'll notice that I'm flying the Ukrainian flag back there. I back the Ukrainian people completely in every way I can. Since I can't afford to buy them a fighter plane, I and my wife and I encourage you and yours to, and I got something about it on the website, but Chef Andrus World Food Kitchen does great work there. And they don't need you to send them $1,000. Send them $10. Send them $5. It's not asking much. those people need it a lot more than we do. So I'll just say thanks again for sharing some time with me. You know, you have no more precious position. You have no more precious possession than time, and I am beyond honored that you chose to spend some of it with me. I promise next time I'll be a little more polished. I'm a little rushed today, and we'll dig a little deeper, and we'll talk truth. Sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's not, but Gary talks truth, and that's the truth. So it's time to say adios, mi amigos. Until the next time, and please, let me hear from you sometime. So, cheers.